let's build a word matrix with form. So I started with inform. So there's different ways you can do this. So how I did it, I have this. So we're gonna first make inform. So what do I need to add to make it informed? The prefix in. And we've seen this prefix lots of times, so it's not new. Inform. So right away, they said informs, informed, informing, because those are suffixes we've seen obviously a lot. Okay, so we already have a lot of words here because also forms by itself, formed and forming are also words. Then we talked about information came up. So one of my students said information. And so this one, normally I might say like, oh, what suffixes do you add? But this one is not so simple. So I wanted to just quickly show you how I handled that. So, and it's also really interesting. I wrote the word information. I showed my students and I said, okay, we already know inform, we know our base, we know our prefix. What else do you see here? And right away they said shun. And I said, okay, shun, now it's actually suffix ion. And that's what I want to talk about for a minute. I'll get back to what the heck is going on in the middle there, because it's not just the suffix ion. There's actually two suffixes, but I first want to talk about this because I didn't know this until a couple years ago. So just in case you didn't know it either, I always thought tion was the suffix, but it's not. Ion is the suffix. So whenever I'm referring to it, I don't say suffix shun, I actually say suffix ion. What's happening is I think that sound shun comes when it's attached to a T or in some cases an S, which is usually part of the base word, or in this case, it's part of another suffix. So the true suffix is ion, not tion. And I think, here's my thoughts on why it's called a suffix, because so I'm looking at this right now through the lens of morphology, the structure of the word, right? But if I look at it through the lens of phonology, how does it sound? Then I'm gonna think about it by syllable. So if I'm dividing this word up by syllable, I would do it like this: in, for, may, shun. That's how I would break it up. And that is, we do need that T to kind of say shun. So if you're looking at it, that's not wrong. The syllable is shun, but the suffix is ion. So you'll see it's divided differently when you look at it through the lens of morphology. And there's nothing wrong with decoding a word using syllable division. If it works, awesome. I love that. And encourage whatever tools you have, but I do love to dig deeper into a word and really see the structure of the word and what's happening. And I found that students, and these are second graders, like they love it. They think it's pretty interesting. So let's talk about then what the heck is happening here. What it actually is it's suffix ate. So let's go ahead and go inform, and then it's suffix ate plus suffix ion. But what happened is we have to drop that E, and that's not unusual. We've seen that before. Anytime there's a vowel suffix, that means a suffix that begins with a vowel. If there's an E before, we have to drop that E. And we saw that the first time in first grade when we were doing our silent E unit, and we had to add suffixes ed and ing, which are vowel suffixes. We have to drop that E. So this is a suffix changing rule that we're familiar with, but maybe it's not familiar to do that with like double suffixes. So that was something fun just to point out, that it looks kind of like, wait, what are we doing? But it's similar to other rules that we've seen, or it's the same rule that we've seen before, just with like simpler words. So that's the word information. It's fun to look at that it's actually just two suffixes here put together. Then we can also add, I'm gonna go over here first and make it misinformation or wrong information. I think it's misinformation, not disinformation, but misinformation. And then that's really fun because it's fun to say like, my goodness, we have two prefixes and two suffixes and that base there. And now, if I think about the word misinformation, I'm gonna go ahead and write it here. If I'm trying to memorize this word by letters, that's a lot of letters. I'm not gonna remember it. But if instead I'm looking at this word as, okay, it's really just two prefixes that are familiar because we've seen them before, we've talked about them, the base form, which we can sound out using our, right, bossy R, we know that form, and then it's two kind of newer suffixes that we're going to see though, but it becomes a lot easier to break down this word if we understand it in those chunks. Another one you could do informational, if you really wanted to keep going. That's kind of fun to add three suffixes together. Okay, so now we've kind of done information, and I might say, what are some other words with our base form? So one that came up right away was perform. So we talked about, we have not done this prefix yet, but it is in fact a prefix. So P-E-R, perform, and then we thought about performance, and so I talked about how A-N-C-E is not a suffix that I formally introduced yet, but we have certainly seen this in words. So it's a common suffix that they're going to see. We eventually will get to it, but performance. Then we talked about, oh, I kind of gave them this one. I said transform. Trans means to change, so to change shape, transform. And then I talked about how you can actually say transformation also. And if you're a child of the 80s, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking transformer. And then former is also a word. So lots of words coming up with. So then you can either start with the word and break it down like I've been doing, or you can say, I'm going to try this prefix. What's this prefix? Re. We've done that prefix. It means again. So then I put it reform. We can make reforms, reformed, reforming. I could do deform. I can do con, conform. Let me just check my cheat sheet. Oh, uniform. So if uni means one, uniform. Let me see real quick. Oh, former. When I'm making my matrix, if I want to add it onto a specific suffix, that's why I'm kind of making those lines, and I only want ly. I don't want ly here because formly is not a word. I want to make formerly. So formerly is a word, and ly is a suffix, same with er, that we are familiar with. Formless, we've done suffix less before, so less or no form. Let's see, I think I got all of them. Oh, one more. Formal is a word. And I could even add formality. So as you can see, we can make a ton of words, and we don't need to memorize the spelling of all these words. We just need to be familiar with these prefixes and suffixes that we're going to keep seeing over and over again and understand our base or our root. So after this, what I did was they had whiteboards, and I gave them a few minutes, talking definitely aloud. Write down as many words as you can. And the reason I want them to talk is because I want them to be saying, is performer a word? Is performerly a word? That kind of thing. I want them talking about that, and I encourage them. I always say, if you're not sure, try to use it in a sentence. Or if you do say, oh, this is a word, can you use it in a sentence? Or maybe you've heard it before, but you can't use it in a sentence because you don't really know the meaning, but you just know that. In that case, like, we would start a discussion about it. But so fun to hear the chatter, have them writing down all the words, and then of course afterwards we shared all the words, and we kind of confirmed that they were words or that they weren't words in some cases, but we just had a lot of fun with it. And the best thing is it builds confidence with spelling, being like, oh, I can spell a lot of words, huge words with this. And this is great for like 4th and beyond, but I'm finding that in 2nd grade, they love it too. So I just wanted to share that. If you're a 1st grade teacher, I would maybe not do all of them, but you could even just do inform. You could do transform. So you can kind of, and just kind of stick with these suffixes or maybe former. So you could make it a lot simpler if you wanted to introduce this to younger kids. But like I said, it's fun to kind of take morphology and put it in with my phonics instruction and have it be a meaningful lesson. So I hope that was helpful.